We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda. Do we have any?
There are no presentations.
Okay, we'll move on to item 1B, Commissioner Communications. And we have Commissioner.
So I'm going to recuse myself from item number 3 on the agenda. My law firm was involved pretty significantly in drafting and negotiating the joint exercise of powers agreement. So to avoid any appearance of impropriety, I'll be leaving you for agenda item 3.
Okay, so we'll move item 4, agenda item 4A and B, C, before we hear agenda item 3. And agenda item 2.
So the next item on the agenda is consideration of the approval of the minutes of the March 8th, 2017 Environment and Utilities Commission. So we have a
I motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, so we,
4A.
all right, and we're going to move to agenda item 4A, Environmental and Utilities Commission calendar,
Yeah, the next meeting is Monday, June 12th,
Monday, June 12th.
and then one after that is Monday, August 14th, 2017.
Any reports from the city and staff?
No, we don't have any reports at this time.
All right. Any future agenda item requests by Environmental and Utilities Commission? No. All right.
So
Thank you.
Commissioner Bivens is recusing himself.
All right, Commissioner Bivens is going to recuse himself for agenda item 3. All right, we're going to move to agenda item number 3, consideration of presentation of the joint exercise of powers agreement establishing the YOLO Subbasin Groundwater Agency.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. The purpose of this item is to provide some information to you about the Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement, or otherwise known as a JPA, that will establish the YOLO Subbasin Groundwater Agency, and to gain the Commission's support of a recommendation to City Council to execute that agreement. I have to apologize, I'm going to be using a lot of acronyms throughout this report. The city is required under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA, that was adopted in 2014, to establish or participate in a groundwater sustainability agency, otherwise known as a GSA, by July 1st of this year, 2017. The GSA is then tasked with developing a groundwater sustainability plan, or GSP, by January 31st, 2020. That plan should be designed to locally manage and regulate groundwater within the covered basin. In 2014, the Water Resources Association of Yolo County, otherwise known as WRA, approached the city and all of its other member agencies asking for support of the WRA acting as the planning forum to develop a GSA for this region. The city had adopted a resolution in January of 15 providing that support to the WRA. And in April of 2016, the WRA formed a working group that was comprised of the potential GSA members, And we worked to develop some some planning principles that would be included in the GSA and the GSP. That work over the last year plus has led to the development of the JPA, which is attached to your agenda report, minus the exhibits, which are still being finalized. And what's being finalized is that final list of eligible entities and affiliated parties, and a couple of other tweaks on the fees. But they will be ready for the council meeting next week. I just couldn't bring them tonight since they weren't finalized. The members of JPA will be eligible entities, like I mentioned, and that's defined under SIGMA, which are public agencies such as a city that have water planning and water resource responsibilities. But there's also affiliated members like UC Davis and other entities that aren't cities or counties or other public agencies, but they still have water planning authorities or have some other local authority related to water that needs to be included in the GSA. Each of the members will have one voting seat on the GSA board. Everyone is eligible to be able to leave voluntarily. However, if an eligible entity like the city chose to leave the JPA, we would have to then form our own GSA, an individual GSA, and develop an individual GSP. And as I mentioned in the report, cost estimates for individual GSA management and GSP development can be as much as $565,000 and $1.6 million annually, and that's respectively. Participation in the YOLO JPA will cost us about $40,000 a year, and that's just for the first 2 years. $26,456 of that are already fees that we pay to the WRA, so a net increase to the city for the first 2 years would only be $13,544. And those fees will be reassessed after the first 2 years with the expectation that they will go down, given the fact that the majority of the work in developing the GSP will be done within the first 2 years. So given the fact that participating in this JPA will provide a significant cost savings to the city, and the fact that the WRA already has 20 years plus of experience managing groundwater, the staff will recommend to the council that we execute the JPA. And in conclusion, at this point, I'm just requesting that the commission support my recommendation to council, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
How long does the report cover, or how many years is it valid before we have to do the next round,
Oh, the GSP?
the GSP?
I don't have that commit to memory. I believe,
Is it a 5-year, 10-year, something like that?
I think it's longer than, I think the GSP is designed to demonstrate that our groundwater is sustainable for 20 years. I apologize, I don't have that.
That's okay.
Committed to
Okay.
memory. But yeah, it's not something that, I think that it's a living document, but it's not something that has to be completely redone every 5 years, like an urban water management plan or something of
Right.
that nature. But I can get that back to you on that. I just have to look
Just
that up.
curiosity. And so how does that plan then ultimately coincide with anything that the Sacramento, the Regional Water Authority is doing, or where these boundaries meet another district? Do you happen to know if
If they coordinate it
if
all?
there's a coordination, right, or if there's a revision that happens because of this new report that will be developed and the existing one in our RWA?
I'm not 100% sure how they interact. I mean, I do know that for the YOLO GSA, YOLO Subbasin GSA to be developed, the WRA had submitted a boundary modification to include all of those entities within the subbasin. And I know that the Department of Water Resources has defined certain subbasins and what areas they cover. I'm just not sure how, yeah, I understand that groundwater obviously is going to, you can't really control it within a certain
Right.
boundary.
Right.
But I haven't had that conversation as to whether we would definitely be working with. But I know that all the GSPs have specific goals that they have to meet. So the understanding would be that everyone that has a GSP is going to have a similar plan in place that's been approved that will manage and create a sustainable groundwater resource. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where we're going to be using more groundwater than another agency because our plans are that different.
Okay,
That's my understanding of it.
all right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, then I motion to support of council recommendation to execute the JPA.
I second it.
All in favor, motion
Aye.
carried. Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to agenda item 4D. Adjourn.
Okay.
Quick meeting today.